Sticking with the economy theme for a moment, my next guest was on hand for Governor Cuomo's announcement of the North Country Regional Economic Development Council yesterday in Potsdam. He is a Republican. He is Senator Joe Griffo, and he's joining us tonight from his native city of Rome. Senator, thank you very much for your time. It's good to see you. Good to be with you again, Liz. Hope you're having a great summer. So far, so good. I mean, we saw you not so long ago in Utica, although you and I didn't see each other, so it's great to connect with you now. I just wanted to ask you regarding the economic development approach. You know, you had a little bit of reservations. You said, quote, you didn't want to add more layers to strategy and efforts. Do you feel like your fears are assuaged so far? No, I think this is an important initiative that the governor has proposed. It's something that he discussed early on in his administration. It's a new construct, and I think we need to give him the benefit of the doubt, and we need to work cooperatively because in the end we want to see success. So I'm willing to work with the administration. We had opportunities to talk with the lieutenant governor late spring on many of the general concepts of what they wanted to try to undertake and how they were going to approach this. So the concern was originally, you know, economic development is so important. We all agree with that. Right. There are a lot of ways to do it. There are a lot of agencies that exist, and we felt that we just wanted to ensure that with this construct that it would continue to work in partnership with everything else and that it would not in any way conflict. I think at this point in time, I think from the way it has been presented and the concept of regional interests and competitiveness could work, and we want it to work, and we're going to continue to be cooperative and trying to see that done. So are you concerned at all about the fact that there are no state legislators on any of these councils? I know for a while now your colleagues have been concerned about the lack of input that they would be able to have on these councils. Well, I'm hopeful that we'll still be able to provide input and that we will have the attention of not only the people that we work with locally, but at the state level. So I'm not really concerned with that. We had that discussion before. We really want to focus on private sector individuals and local government officials. In this regard, I totally understand and appreciate and have in the past talked about the need to be sensitive to unique challenges and regional interests. So this will be that opportunity. The only thing that I have said, Liz, is that beyond what we have in place, and the competition is good, as the governor has indicated, but some of these areas, particularly areas that I know where I come from in central and northern New York, there will be additional needs that will have to receive attention and be worthy of resources. So beyond what we're doing in these regional economic development councils and strategy, we still have to keep an eye on those areas that have lagged behind and will need additional help. Yeah, Senator, that's interesting because the governor said yesterday that there are going to be some plans that don't really cut it and that some of them are going to get, you know, the thumbs down. So the question is, if you guys don't get what you think you should or what you apply for, then what happens? You get left out in the cold, and everyone knows that the North Country certainly needs assistance, as does much of upstate New York when it comes to economic development. Well, I think that will be an interesting aspect of the whole policy and approach right now. I think we have to let it evolve and see how everything comes about, and I'm hopeful that you will see good competitive projects that would be worthy of investment. I recognize and respect the governor's concern about wisely using taxpayer economic development dollars. I think all have a consensus on that, but I've also urged in private conversations and continue to do it publicly that beyond the approach that we're taking here, which we all want to see succeed, there will be ancillary and additional unique challenges to specific areas that have really had and suffered economic challenges over the last decade plus, and the North Country and Central New York are two of those areas. Okay, so what has been the response when you, in private conversations, raise these concerns? Well, I think there's a willingness and a sensitivity to the fact that this is something we're trying and we want to see it work, but we're also not going to neglect
important regions of the state, like the North Country or the Mohawk Valley, that if there are more challenges and unique problems, then we need to work cooperatively to try to find a result and a solution.
So one of the concerns that you have, that we've actually spoken about quite a bit on this show, is the fact that Oneida's prison is going to be shut down, as per the governor's recommendation, and that's what they are planning on doing. There are a whole host of prisons that are slated for closure. You and other local elected officials have asked for reconsideration, as have the people who work at this particular facility. Can you give us an update on where that stands?
Well, I think we have urged a delay, and that has been rejected, and I understand that they're following a process now because there are a number of people that are involved in this process across the entire state, employees, relative to potential transfers and things of that nature with rules and regs associated with their employment. So now we are still continuing to do a couple of things. Number one, to urge reconsideration on facts, because we recognize the need to save money, but we think we can make a case on merit that there may be a better way to do that. If they disagree in the administration with that, then we are working in earnest with various officials from the administration, and I had the opportunity to discuss this in the past with the Lieutenant Governor and very briefly yesterday with the Governor, and I do believe we have their attention and recognition that this area has suffered a cumulative economic challenge over the years with the loss of Griffiths Air Force Base, the state decision now, private sector decisions. So there's really an opportunity here to at least work within the existing facilities that will remain in the Department of Correctional Services to keep as many of the jobs as possible in this area. And I'm hopeful that there's a receptivity to that, and there will be a responsiveness to that. So
one more question before I let you go. Another issue that technically speaking actually doesn't really have to do with the jobs, but could be really devastating potentially, critics say anyway. Did you have a chance to talk to the governor about this ballast water issue? I mean, there are some people who say that tough new regulations regarding water that comes off of ships, that's what ballast is, right? The idea is to cut down on the invasive species that are polluting upstate waters, but critics say it's going to cut down actually shipping and the economy, which would be very problematic in the St. Lawrence Seaway.
We haven't had a full discussion of that, but I know many of the members that represent the border communities are concerned about this. One of the ideas coming from a congressman from Ohio is ridiculous, of trying to penalize New York. One of the things we're concerned with is not
just penalize, but strip all of the environmental protection money that the state gets. I mean, that's not just a penalty, that's like a sentence.
Right, that's ludicrous, and and I don't see that happening. I think it's ridiculous and ludicrous. But we're trying to work. We understand the EPA has some issues here. The Coast Guard will be coming up with recommendations. DEC is trying to protect our environment in this case, and our economy, and the public health. But I think there's opportunities here for all of us to work together. There are some issues across the border with the Canadian government. So we're hopeful that we can continue to protect our environment, our public health, and our economy while not jeopardizing many of the other concerns being raised by the Canadian government or the shipping industry. So I just still believe there's opportunities here. Okay.
Do you know if there's a timeline on that? It also impacts the Great Lakes, I'm told, so it's pretty much of a big deal, particularly if hundreds of millions of dollars are taken from the state because of this effort.
I still don't see the money. I think our delegation will be strong in defending the interest of New York. I'm hopeful that Senators Schumer and Gillibrand and the congressional delegation will not allow that to happen. And in the interim, the DEC has already backed off on the timetable here, and I believe the Coast Guard and the EPA in the next year or so will be coming up with their recommendations. So I think we need to continue to communicate with one another and do what's going to be in the best interest of the state of New York and the region that we represent, many of us along the border, but also understand the sensitivity to the shipping industry and national policy.
Okay, well, we'll obviously keep tabs on that. It sounds like it's going to take some time to play out. Senator Joe Griffo, I want to thank you very much for joining us. It's good to see you.
Always enjoy talking to you, Liz.